Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business. Let's do it. What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast bonus episode, Halloween episode, if you will. If you're watching on YouTube, you may see some things. Happy Halloween, I guess. But first and foremost, thank you for the support, the Patreons, the supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. And if you would like to become a supporter of this podcast and show your love in different ways, you could also purchase merch, or you can become a Patreon member, or you can just share this podcast with your network. All donations count. But those first two things, the links are in the description of this episode and every episode. Show your support. Now, so if you are new here, welcome. But what I would like to say is that this is a hip hop news podcast, weekly news, and sometimes the news cycle gets a little slow. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's like, should I do a bonus episode, a new episode? Should I do something else? Because when I say the news cycle is slow, I mean people are talking about things that I don't think I need to come and reiterate to the people who watch my show. They've already got enough, right? So no, I'm not going to talk about whether you should take Jay-Z's $500K or have dinner with him, because the answer is obvious. Take the money, educate yourself, financial literacy, learn about investments, and then live the rest of your life by utilizing that $500,000 correctly. But we are going to talk about Jay-Z, and we're also going to talk about Westside Gunn, but probably less Westside Gunn and more Benny the Butcher. So if you've been under a rock somewhere, whatever the case may be, let's get right into the business. All right, so two things happened, but trust me, they are related to what I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be my opinion about it. And I want people to put their opinions in the comment section. Let's chop it up. Let's talk about it. But first, let's just start with Benny the Butcher, right? So Westside Gunn released his album and then Pray For Me, which was sort of like a sequel to Pray For Paris, right? Pray For Paris wasn't a bad album to me. It kind of grew on me, and I liked it. I didn't dislike it when I first heard it. But this new album, if you go back and look at my review in one of the episodes, I just kind of felt like, Westside Gunn always hypes up his projects, and you just got to wait and see. What was disappointing was the fact that in the past, when he did it, he was actually right. It was worth the wait. But this time it kind of felt like it was a little overblown, and the album was bloated. It was just, all this curator stuff. And I just felt like, well, sometimes when you're curating, you gotta don't believe in your own legend at the same time. And maybe you're a better curator of works that's not your own, right? Because then when it's yours, you think everything hot. Yo, this hot, that hot. But it just wasn't that great. No big deal. Nobody's saying Westside Gunn got a whack career or he ain't been hitting, the music the way he should have. He's had a couple of joints, like his album last year I loved. So he got joints. It's just not this one. Benny the Butcher has an album coming out soon, and Benny is probably, it used to be Conway, then it was Benny, and now sometimes it was Conway kind of, but I'm looking forward to Benny the Butcher's project, because honestly, I don't think I've disliked an album from him yet. I may have liked more, some more than others, but as far as straight up being like, nah, I'm just gonna stick with the joints I like, I don't think that's gonna happen this time around for Benny, right? But he too talks up his album and how it's gonna be album of the year and greatest and all that good stuff. And you got people like Lloyd Banks saying, they're the best alive. No one's rapping like him. Okay, whatever, fam. But The part about all of this that I don't like, because I don't mind any of that. Hip hop is a competitive sport. Just like sports, when people say, I feel like I'm the best fighter, I'm the best basketball player, I'm the best whatever. Hip hop is competitive. It's outwardly competitive. It's not like two singers who they kind of competing, but they competing by releasing music. Hip hop is like, nah, I'm better than him, right? Direct, live and direct. 50 years of hip hop. So I kind of felt like, okay, I'm used to them talking like that. The thing I don't like, and it's a problem with Griselda at this point, because I used to criticize Conway for doing that all the time. Every time he dropped the album, if the reception wasn't up to what he felt it should be, then he would publicly show his opinion and talk about critics and blah, blah, blah. Same thing with West Side Gun with this album. Some people with Drake's album, they didn't like it. I felt the same way about Drake's album I felt about West Side Gun. Too many records, too much just repetition in everything about what you do. Switch it up. I don't think Benny's gonna be that. But he was also kind of complaining about critics and the internet make y'all feel this and that. Let me just squash this once and for all. I tweeted about it. No, I didn't X about it. I tweeted about it. But it is not, if you're in the business of making art, right? Music is art. I don't care if you're a rapper. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how long you were locked up, how much weed you smoke, or that space. All right, sorry. Rest in peace, Prodigy. But none of that matters because you're in the business of making music. You're also in the entertainment business. That's the category from which your music, regardless if it's what's homegirl name who is in the stands, but I'm a football fan, so I really don't care about the Taylor Swift. Okay, like she's in the entertainment business. So are you. I don't care how many weed smoking dudes are in your video. You are entertainers to the listening public. And just like film, books, video games, television shows, uh, food, whatever. I mean, food is not entertainment, but people critique. And there are people who are professional critics. Critic doesn't mean hater. Critic means professionally, I will analyze this guy's album for public consumption. I will share my opinion about it. It's up to the people to decide whether that person has a point or they don't. Now, sure, can some people influence others? Well, yeah, hell yeah. But that's not the dominant thing about them. West Side Gun, the way we feel about your album is the way we feel about your album. Because it can't be not, oh, I'm not with the critics when everybody's praising you, including critics, right? So it can't be about that when you're getting criticized, especially if it's constructive criticism. And some people don't like the word constructive criticism because they know it's true. But constructive criticism, for those who don't know, is really criticism to kind of help you, right? Or just point out things and why and explain. So here on Hip Hop Now podcast, I make it my business to say my opinion, but also to say, if you're a fan of West Side Gun, it's this. If you're not a fan, maybe you're not gonna like it. If you don't know anything, check it out. So by all means, the decision is on the listener, whether they want to listen, whether they like it or not. You cannot control that. What you're doing when you make these videos and you go out on these campaigns of trying to back down the criticism if you feel like it's too negative, or if 100% of the people don't like it, you're showing insecurity. Now, showing insecurity is not a bad thing in other instances, but in this instance, it kind of is. And then let me play devil's advocate, right? We're talking about art. We're talking about artists. Artists are sensitive. right? Because what they create, they hold really deeply to what they are, like the fabric of what they are. If I feel like I made something really dope, or I had a real dope concept and idea and brought this person in and had this person saying, yeah, it was really terrible, after all that work and thought and imagining it can be crushing. But guess what? When you're in the business of entertainment, now no free shows, no free albums, no free merch. When you in the business of entertainment, you are open to public criticism. Please find the country on this planet where you will not be and still be able to make that money. Everybody is. So at the end of the day, should they feel the way they feel? Of course, it's their work. They're gonna feel some kind of way. Should they try to go on a campaign of making it, trying to discredit critics or influencers or whatever? No, because in a lot of ways, these are also the same people who help make you popular. Come on, man. It takes the cosign to even get to where you are. For somebody to be like, yo, that joint was hot. Like West Side Gun, you ain't getting that all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just what it is. So you're better off creating what you know is dope to you, still promoting it the way you do, right? It's the greatest, it's classic, blah, blah. But if the returns aren't what you want, go back to work. Don't go back to work to create what you think they want. Go back to dig in a little bit more with your artistry. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now, what that relates to for this particular episode is what Jay-Z had to say about making another album, because he did an interview with Gail, whose last name Shell. You know who Gail is. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you know who Gail is. Right? All right, scumbag time over. But Jay-Z did an interview with her, sat down, and I don't think Jay-Z's done an interview like that in a little while. So a lot of people were harping on his words, and they had some really good questions, because a lot of it came from things on the internet. One in particular would take the 500K or have dinner with Jay-Z to get some advice. He kind of finalized that, take the money. Uh, but also when he talked about why or when he would drop another album, he basically said he would want to make music when it's going to have meaning or purpose, right? And he gave the example that 444 was just that. It was a lot of personal anecdotes from Jay-Z in a way that he had never done. And I pointed that out in my review of it years ago. This is what Jay-Z probably should have made years ago, but it was sort of like perfect timing anyway. So that's how he feels. Now, there were opinions flying around about, like those who are purists, who know really good music and appreciate artists caring about their art in that way, to not want to make a throwaway album, to want to make something meaningful. I totally agree. And that's where the separation comes from. Again, no disrespect to Griselda, but pumping out album after album after album after album, telling us it's classic, telling us the greatest thing in the world, when we all know it's just a collection of songs with similar themes and lyrics to what you've done on every album. Now, Devil's Advocate again, for Benny, for West Side Gun, and all of them, with all the mixtapes and albums, they gotta grow to where Jay-Z is musically, right? Because then it becomes about the motivation. And with Jay-Z, he has several albums where he was able to do a ton of things he's probably always wanted to do. And he has to be motivated to do something that he feels like this will have purpose. I did I'm the Best albums. I did I'm the Greatest Drug Dealer albums. I had the greatest crew or I'm the nicest ever, or or I want to perform with this person, or I want to do a live album, or I want to make a record with this sound, or I want to have a group album with Kanye. Like, he did all these things. So now, what to me, what he's saying, and I'm just going to interpret what Jay-Z's saying. What does a Jay-Z album sound like today? Because we don't really want to hear another 444. That was perfect for what it was. But what is a Jay-Z album today? Now, inevitably, people are going to look at Nas and well, look what Nas doing about it. But Nas had meaning to this run for him. For him, probably mentally, he was kind of checked out on the music side. But then financially, he got right, got to work with Hit Boy, saw some success, and he went with the feeling. And what was dope about Nas's run is, like I said back in the day with Life is Good, the subject matter of Life is Good is where Nas should be. Who is Nas today? And that's what you got, right? Even with the last joint, Magic 3, you get Nas at 50. What does he think? How does he feel? What does he feel about this music? Just everything. So with Jay-Z, it has to be something meaningful for him. Now, I'm going to tell you what I want, Jay-Z. Because I know you may feel like you've done this, but you really haven't. Jay-Z should do a conscious album. And he should do it not just from a grassroots standpoint, because he's not really living a grassroots kind of lifestyle, to be honest, even though some of that could be there. But just as a black man who's a billionaire trying to maintain and teaching people about the evils of what surrounds him now, right? And let me give you an example. And he can call it Reasonable Doubt too. On Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z, I always say this, right? Like, and this is not me picking one or the other. Big is my favorite rapper, so stop it. But Ready to Die, if you watch The Wire, Ready to Die was more Avon Barksdale. Street corner, go get the guns, clap, clap, warning. That's what it was. Street, sell the crack. That was me letting off the gun. Like, that's how it sounds. But with Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, he was more like Stringer Bell, right? Like, I'm less of a crack dealer and I'm more of a hustler. I may do that to take that money and do this, because eventually where I'm trying to go is much bigger than this street level stuff and much bigger than doing illegal stuff. I'm trying to use the illegal to become legit. Feel me? Use that money to become a legit businessman. That was the mindset. That was what some of the songs represented, right? While you, what is the lyric? While you thumb through the source, I read the Rob report, right? Which is more about the stock exchange, I believe. So it was one of those things, right? Where he's like, I'm on this level. And when you listen to it in hindsight, he achieved a lot of what he talked about on that debut album. He's there now. But that doesn't mean he's free from the hurdles. The hurdles are just different now. Now, I do understand that there's certain things he probably may not say because of messing up business, but I think it would be a little bit more courageous if he just came out and said it. And he's kind of done that, but he's teased it, like on 444 and everything else from like the past couple of years. So I think if he took that approach of making a conscious album, right? He said, if because he was thinking about sales, but he said, I would be lyrically Talib Kweli. Make that album. Now, don't follow what Talib does on Twitter and Instagram, because he just goes a little overboard. But nevertheless, it's something Jay-Z doesn't have, right? It's nothing in his is nothing in any of his albums as a whole that you could point to that was like this is when Jay-Z kind of got in his conscious bag on a whole album. Nas tried to do that with Untitled, but it kind of some songs do that and some songs don't. But I think Jay-Z's at a point right now where he can fully commit to that type of album. And the only reason why I say that is because prior to 444, I felt like Jay-Z kind of talked about his life in a song here, in a verse there, right? He kind of kept his life mostly private as far as details, but there were sprinkles here and here throughout the albums. But 444 was about family and his life. And I felt like this is the type of music Jay should be making at this point. Make the music that maybe you were afraid to make, and I'm gonna use that term loosely because I know sometimes cats be feeling some kind of way like, yo, I ain't afraid, right? But make the music that you were afraid to make because you didn't want to compromise like a deal or whatever, or record sales. Now you don't have to worry about that. That's what Nas is doing. Nas is like, I'm gonna make what I want. It just so happens we loved most of it, if not all of it. I think Jay-Z can do the same thing without having to release 6 albums. He could just do one, right? And have, features sprinkled here and there that complement that, right? Like don't have features on there that kind of drag back with the things that you don't think are meaningful. Make a concept album that's conscious. You call it reasonable doubt 2. You can give it another legal term. So it's like the spiritual successor to reasonable doubt 2. There's so many ways you could flip it and have a great album late in your career that's meaningful to you and your fans. So there you have it. What do you think about what Benny the Butcher and Westside Gunn have been saying about critics? Drake's been saying about critics. Do you think it's fair for them to say that when the fans and people who listen to the music have a choice on whether or not they should like your joint? Also, what do you think about Jay-Z? Do you want a new Jay-Z album? Is this his way of teasing a new Jay-Z album, setting it up, right? It has to be meaningful, and then boom, it drops on his birthday. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section below wherever you are getting this podcast. This podcast is available on YouTube, but also available in audio form on all podcasting platforms. So all you have to do is search for Hip Hop Now Podcast. Check out the logo. Say, oh, that's it. Subscribe, like, and most importantly, share it with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic. I'm not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace.